remote teams and what can we do about it? Hello guys, it's Kal from Omnipotent Growth. Today you are with another episode of our podcast. It's a great pleasure to say hi to Stefan.
Hi, Kal. Nice to be here.
So today's episode, it's inspired by recent events. Obviously, the recent happenings around the globe impacted us all. The leaders had to adjust to very new times that we faced. And we want to share some thoughts and some experiences in this situation. And of course, help each other because we are not almighty and we don't know all the answers. We, of course, encourage you to write comments and engage in our discussion so we can find new extra ways in supporting and enabling our teams. So let's get right into it.
Yeah, I think the today's topic is also related to in some way to motivation, a topic that we discussed a couple of episodes before. We discussed then the different incentives for our employees, but also what demotivates them. And we talked about hygiene factors, status compensation, job security. We discussed also motivation factors, which are the challenging work, recognition, responsibility, and personal growth. Now it's time to talk about particular work modes that enhance employees' motivation. The current pandemic advanced massively working from home mode. Even in such a conservative industry like mine, which is the banking industry, we were allowed to work from home. In some particular settings, say with children or parents at home, working from home might be a bit challenging, but I have the feeling, and Kyle, you will correct me if I'm wrong, but the overall productivity wasn't hurt. So how is the situation, the present situation in your industry, in the IT industry?
So at least from the data that I have, it shows that productivity wasn't hurt, even quite the opposite. In some projects, we experienced an increase in productivity. So it's very interesting because we faced some challenges, and the biggest challenge that we had and the biggest cold shower, let's say, was that people didn't adjust by themselves. And what I mean by that is they started to work more. Even the opposite that we expected, they started to work more and they started to blur the line when to stop and when to end the business day. So this is the thing that we needed to address right away. And after that, with a few good leadership practices that we managed to imply, everything was now again under a smooth flow, and we somehow managed to make this new state the new normal. And now at the moment, because the situation continues, and I think I'm also quite confident that things are not getting so good at the moment, so they're not getting better. We have, at least in our country, we have more and more people that are infected. So I think that situation might last longer. Mm-hmm. And it's good that we as leaders can impact the teams and can make some improvements to the hard situations, to the struggles that we have. Mm-hmm. So some of the things that we did were to, I talked with the leaders in my teams, and we found a way to just mark the end of the day so we can be concise, because after 6-8 hours, you're starting to become less productive. And we want people to be clear-minded. So we say that on tops, you have to finish around 7, let's say, and then go rest, recharge, and come back tomorrow fresh and ready to impact the project. This is the first thing that we did. We also tried to make communities. We tried to make different chats, for example, a coffee break chat or a water machine chat, in which you can use your break to just really relax and take your rest in the way that you are going to do it in the office. Chat with the people, post an interesting video, a comment on an article that is trending at the moment, or something like that. So this really creates the environment in which you're feeling, again, part of the office environment, even working from home. And the third challenge that we had was the too many meetings, because you cannot go through the corridor and to the next desk just to have a quick chat. You have to book the time. You have to make sure that all the small talk is there. Of course, many of our colleagues are good friends and they love to talk to each other. But when you sum up this, and if you have a whole day of extra long meetings, this really drains you. So a good practice that we implemented was to cut the length of the meetings. So by a percentage, it differs from team to team depending on the requirements, because of course, some teams need more elaboration, more talk, more chat, and more time to think and design thinking, brainstorming, and so on. And others are straight to the point where the product is more analytical and you need to get to the chase. So yeah, those are three that come right away to my mind.
Recently I've read a very interesting research according to which working from home as an option is supported by the incredible 98% of the employees. However, I think there's some negative features of working from home, which you mentioned, like for example, blurring lines between personal and work life, which you address through these chat rooms, coffee break rooms, and so on. Lack of social life. You also said that the majority of your colleagues are friends between each other, so this is an element that is missing now in the current situation. Lack of support from more senior colleagues, advice, and so on. And from managers' point perspective, major setbacks are lack of opportunity to instill the corporate culture, which is very important, especially for the large organizations, lack of team cohesion, probably loss of focus in the employees, and hence productivity. Do you see any other negative features of the working from home?
So in the end, the thing that is more challenging is the pandemic situation. And the working from home is easily manageable when you're not isolated by default. So if you have the time to go out and socialize after working hours, it's okay that you work from home during the day. But when you cannot do that, and you only sanctuary is your home, and you don't leave without a mask and just to go grab some groceries, then it becomes heavy on the psychology of the person. But I don't think that there is something negative about this work, but I think that there are challenges. So it's difficult to have, let's say, 50% of the people working in the office and 50% working from home, because the dynamics are different. And this cohesion should be addressed properly, so you can have a balanced communication during the day. Because sometimes I've noticed that people leave out somebody because it's more difficult to just grab, connect, and bring him to the, let's say, to the meeting room, because they say, oh, we just need a 10-minute chat, so why bother, we will ping him afterwards to tell him what we decided. This is not okay. So the responsibility of the leader is to include everybody and to have accountability to everyone, no matter where they are. Your culture should tell that inclusivity is important. So this is a major challenge, and I think that the leaders should address it directly. And another challenge, it might be the sheer fact that it's easier, and it makes you feel more comfortable. So you're not on the edge, and people need to address that situation. So if they want to grow and they want to continuously um, create great work, they should find practices to bring them in a flow state, like in a productive state. This is what I've conquered many years ago, and found out that you should have a separate angle for each activity. So if you start working, eating, and sleeping on the same place, this is not good for either of those activities.
Yeah,
So yeah, gradually increased the space. Now I have a room for work, but a few years back I just had a corner for work. But the principle is the same. The principle is get your mind focused on the different things, and spatial and environmental factors play a very big role in that case.
Yeah, there are a lot of advices to wear your official working clothes, for example, dress up like you've been in the office.
Yes.
And but isn't it easier to achieve this flow when you're at home rather than in the office? Because in the office you're not always, but very often interrupted by some colleagues, by an email, by a phone call, and so on.
Mm. Yeah, you're totally right. So this is a challenge of the office. So you have
Yeah.
the two poles. On one hand, you have the challenges of working in your home, and of course, if you're working right next to the room in which your kids are playing, it's also not
Yeah.
so very easy. But technology is a big enablement. For example, you now have headphones with cancellation of noise, and you can use all different tactics to find way to get some deep work. But you're totally right that in the office is especially in the open space offices is extremely difficult to grab 1 hour. For example, if you're always running through meetings and people are waiting the whole day to catch you, if you're a leader, then when you have the 1 free hour to actually do some really deep work, some analytical work, then everybody will try to grab your attention for some case. So yeah, this is also thing that you should balance. And one advice on my side is to book your own time. So I have the practice to book 1 hour for deep work in the day, because this is essential for the things that I'm doing. And it's really important and really crucial, because I can answer all the questions in the end of the day. But if I don't block time to make really good thinking and strategizing and making some decisions that are crucial and important, it will affect a lot more the work of my team, of my unit, of all the departments. So yeah, of course, an advice is also the thing that we do with the managers in my unit. We have different channels for different priorities. For example, I know that if somebody calls me directly on the mobile, a direct call, this is priority number one. So it's something really urgent, and I should call it right away. No doubt
Answer the
about
call.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but you have to make some levels, so you're aware, situationally aware.
Well, a lot of useful advices, indeed. So another topic, actually, it's related. It's not completely separate. Beside the working from home, uh, are there any other flexibilities that we as leaders can implement to improve our employees' satisfaction from the work? Because this is very much appreciated by the employees to have some autonomy, to have some freedom, to have some flexibility in their work, especially some practices that would help them to balance their work-life level, and especially for the millennials who value highly, among other things, time for both work, but both personal and social life,
Mm.
higher purposes, and you know how it is. So and also I've been reading a lot of research that demonstrates that work-family time conflict is associated with lower job satisfaction, lower organizational commitment, higher turnover intentions, higher burnout, and job-related
Mm.
stress. Sorry. So, what can we do to address all this work-life balance issue?
Yep. So I'm pretty biased on the work-life balance
Yeah, yeah.
because for
Because
me,
it assumes that they're separate, right?
yeah, for me, like your work, if your work is not part of your life in general, I think you might be leaning in a wrong career or professional
Yeah, yeah.
direction.
Totally agree with
Uh,
you.
I'm not saying that it should be your hobby because some people say if you make your hobby your work, then you're going to hate it. But I don't completely agree with that either. The thing is, luckily, it's not so simple because if it was so simple, then there won't be a need of managers and leaders to try and balance that. Um, the line of work is quite important. If the job is like for a salesperson that doesn't need to collaborate with other salespeople and teammates, then if you are going to address only clients and you have a quota and you have pretty much on a piece of paper you have your goals and you can achieve them however you like, then you can give maximum flexibility.
Mhm.
But you know that this sometimes leads to the other end of the spectrum, which means that flexibility might go into 12, 14-hour working days,
Mhm.
and burnout in the end.
Yeah.
But on the other side of the coin, when you have a frame, you can give as much flexibility as you want. For my teams, for example, we have an understanding that if you go to your meetings on time, if you complete the tasks that are assigned to you and that are estimated and that are part of the job of the agile sprint, let's say,
Mhm.
and if you're in a good collaborational model in which you're keeping your communications often with all team members, then you can use flexibility to have time to reach for some personal activities in the day. If you have urgent work, then this is the we call it the working time of trust, the literal
Mhm.
translation. And then it's all dependent on the person. It's all dependent on the connection between the manager, between the teammates as a
Mhm.
whole. And it's something that is not so easy to balance, but this is one of the greatest challenges of leadership to balance things out and to make it work in the end.
Mhm. 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 Okay, okay, thank you. So, in to conclude, a lot of research shows that happy employees provide for better companies' results. We talked about motivation. Kyle mentioned the way that he provided some of his teams the autonomy and the flexibility to work by themselves. Today we discussed working environments. An advice to our listeners is to think of ways to make your work environment more flexible, and the results will follow. Bureaucracy might be an effective form of organization, especially for large organizations, but in today's neck-breaking, changing world, it's not the best. Kal, final words from you.
So, final words would be use the situation. So this is a very challenging moment. I know that lots of people are under humongous amounts of stress, but it's also a space for growth. For example, you can use that extra hour, sometimes even more, that you don't spend in traffic, to look the other direction, to look inside. Try to make some activities that enable you. Try some physical activities, some meditation. Let's say I'm always advocating for meditation. Try to read a bit more, like 30 minutes more. You have some extra time on your hands, and also the thing that you have is space, a quiet space. You can use the time, like if you have 15-30 minutes between meetings, use this space, put aside the distractions, think of how you want to achieve your goals professionally, personally, line them up, and just use this time to rebuild yourself and your purpose. So it sounds a bit deep for an end, but I mean well. I want to thank you for being part of our podcast. We are planning great interviews in the near future, so stay tuned. Subscribe in your favorite podcast area, subscribe to the YouTube channel, and share the content so we can achieve our growing nation and support and help each other. See you next time.
Thank you. See you.